Mind Blender.
All right, so since we're both here, buddy, something we talk about sometimes when we're drunk is that, the fascination that remakes kind of are cash-grabbing pieces of shit now.
Yeah.
But there's a time in the 80s when someone would remake almost a campy 1950s movie into like a very like heavy, deep sci-fi movie in the 80s. It actually turned out really well, and there's three movies in particular that stand the strongest of all of them. And it's the big three. The big three, and I say the
three.
big three of those. And it's The Thing, The Fly, and The Blob.
The Thing, The Fly, The Blob.
Yeah. So,
I have an actual DVD section of the movies.
yeah?
It's like The Thing, The Fly, The Blob, The Fog, The Mist, The Outer Limits. No, I don't have the Outer. I do have the remake. Whatever. Anyways, yeah. So, like, there's so many thes. The Outsiders. It goes off the rails at one point. But yeah, The Thing, The Fly, and The Blob.
Yeah. So I really like...
And The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, if we're going to talk about good remakes, but...
That might have been the one that light the torch of saying, hey, remakes, but take them seriously is a good idea.
Yeah, well, all right, so we're going to, we'll talk about, the three thes, if you want. I was just, saying, The Invasion of Body Snatchers, I don't know, I was, thinking the other day, certain movies kind of lend themselves as kind of like the legacy torch bearer type of thing. Like we're talking about Dracula or Godzilla or King Kong, Frankenstein. They all kind of every generation has its own version of that, and the stories are so broad they could be translated and all you have to do is update them. The Mummy doesn't do so well because it's of a very specific time and I don't know, it doesn't translate as well. There's one Tom Cruise movie that didn't work. All right. Anyways, I don't want to divulge too far and stuff. So, anyways, the Invasion of Body Snatchers, the story is so broad, it kind of carries itself over. The original was very it was an anti-communist. It was just a allegory of communism and or people's paranoia, of the whole McCarthy era type of shit and stuff. And then the 70s version was very call out to Watergate, the fucking paranoia, who can we trust? We can't even trust our own government type of thing, And I think the Thing kind of translates perfectly, even though it's more of a faithful adaptation of the original source material. Who Goes There?
Wait, what's the source material? I don't even know.
The Thing?
Yeah.
It's a short story called Who Goes There.
Oh, cool.
So the 1950s movie was loosely based on that, to which but the story itself kind of talks about a creature that's kind of like a morpher. I don't know what you want to call it. What are they called when they change shape and all that stuff?
A changeling?
No, that's more of a werewolf.
Power Ranger?
No, that's more of a bad 90s sitcom. No, but anyways, a shapeshifter. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Shapeshifter, creature, and then, the movies was more this giant plant Frankensteinish monster type of thing that just lumbered around and you had to set him on fire to kill him type of shit. He kept on regenerating. But, yeah, so, the 1982 John Carpenter movie was, more faithful to Who Goes There. And I don't remember what year that novella came out at, but
yeah,
but it lends well. If you ever want to watch a very good paranoid double feature, mash up Invasion of Body Snatchers right after or before The Thing. Actually, they'd probably go together if you put The Thing first, and then Invasion of Body Snatchers. You just cut out the whole pods coming from space type of scenario. Well, they both come from space anyways, right?
Have you seen the 1950s The Thing?
I've always wanted to watch both 1950s The Thing or Invasion of Body Snatchers. I think the Invasion of Body Snatchers might be a better movie.
Yeah.
Sidney Lumet, if I understand correctly.
I'd love to check them out, but I'm sometimes I think...
They're hard to find.
Sometimes I think to myself, I'm why the fuck do they keep remaking things? But I'm yeah, but if they didn't remake those goofy 1950s movies, would I even know these titles, So yeah. I'm there might be some 10-year-old watching Firestarter right now being best movie ever, with a new one.
Better than the fucking 80s one. It probably is.
I don't know, maybe technically.
Did you watch both versions?
I've seen I remember liking the 1980s one more, but I was watching it with a girl, so it was the best day ever. 'Cause
Oh,
I
of
was
course.
I was a teenager, so I'm a little biased. But okay, so The Thing is that's one of your favorite movies. John Carpenter
Yeah.
movie. It did not do really well, but is beloved. Was critically.
That was the year of make and break. Like where you had like movies that were hits at that point, and they kind of like they're not pushed off to the wayside. I'm like saying The Thing was a huge flop because it was like right after E.T. So everybody's like all gushing and in love with like extraterrestrials. And you know what? In those days, that was a big thing because like whenever you'd watch an alien movie, it was like always like something evil and stuff. And we kind of needed something positive in the world in those days and shit. And like you watch E.T. now, it's actually stands as a good horror movie for the first 40 minutes until you meet the alien. Maybe not 40 minutes.
I like the version where all the FBI agents are packing.
I agree. I agree. I like the version where Elliot like falls off his bike. I was gonna say when Elliot gets shot. That's the X-rated version. Spielberg just like
that doesn't
trolls
happen,
the
right?
crowd.
Does it?
Yes, of course it happened.
I have a VHS of the ET. I could actually check.
Yeah. No, this is the ultra rare Atari VHS version. It was like Atari made VHS.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
And, like it was like all types of weird shit going on. Like the 80s was a very strange time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in The Thing,
That's a movie that should never be remade. I was gonna say they should remake that movie. E.T.
no, they shouldn't. So The Thing, very very cool film. I've only seen it twice, and one of them was with you. And I gotta say, I'm almost scared to show Melissa. Like I'm sure it will fucking rock her to her core. She doesn't like gross things. She doesn't like snakes.
Yeah, body horror or what have you. Yeah, that movie's is a trip in itself, but I don't know. Everybody who loves the practical effects and why can't you, man? Like, I think that's probably some of the best. But Rob Bottin's still I don't know, when we think of effects guys and everybody's like talks about Tom Savini and like I want to say John Williams. It's not John Williams. It's Stan Winston.
Yeah.
Guys with white beards is why I got mixed up. But Rob Bottin, like just some of the fucking most innovative like special effects is from, in my opinion, or the most amazing things to look at is from his like category. And The Thing is just like out of this world. Like the effects in itself is something to marvel at, and that's usually the selling point when you talk about The Thing. So it actually could like diverse from like its actual greatness, because the movie is a really, without the effects, is a really tight thriller.
Yeah.
Like it's an ensemble cast, very one-sided. There's absolutely no females in this entire movie, and I think that's probably why it didn't do so good in the box office. People was like, "We're the chicks, we're all the boobs." Like, people go to see a John Carpenter movie for boobs. Yeah, but no, it's a really good whodunit type of like, or like, what is the thing? What the fuck's going on? Like a very good paranoid thriller. So, hence goes good with the 1978 Invasion of Body Snatchers. What's your favorite part in The Thing?
My favorite part in The Thing, oh god, it's been a lot of years, but I really like the fact it ends so ambiguously. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the unnerving part. Like, you don't feel good. You don't feel good about that ending in a way.
I always leave the theater with a smile, or when I always finish the movie with a smile. I like it's dark ambiguousness.
So Melissa and I showed Melissa The Fly like just a few months ago.
And you're afraid to show her The Thing? The Fly, I think, is so much more upsetting.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I think it's because like The Thing is slightly animal related. So whenever there's anything with a tail, she freaks out. Mm-hmm. And this was Goldblum falling apart. So
it's amazing. We're talking about movies from the 80s. The 80s, when you think they're all like, hyped up and happy-go-lucky type of like very stylishly like bright and like mullets everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're talking about like the three most upsetting. The Blob's not an upsetting movie. It's just there are places. It's out of the two main ones. Like I think The Fly and The Thing they come along as like some of my favorite movies. I love The Blob, but more for it's a really good like fucking horror adventure.
Yeah.
It's tight. It does. Anyways, we'll go on. The Thing and the Fly are two of the most like downbeat and depressing. The Fly is like absolutely upsetting in terms of fucking just subject matter in general.
Well, I'm like, when you make a remake, if this is a remake almost in name only, and the idea that guy goes in machine, becomes Fly. Like
Mm-hmm.
the original, man, we're talking like they swap bodies, like a little human head
Yeah.
on a tiny fly,
And it's so
a
hokey
big,
looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and a big fly head on a human body. Like none of that happens to Jeff Goldblum.
No.
So they do a remake, but is it one?
It is a remake. Actually, that one has a long and interesting story because it went through a whole bunch of like rewrites and all that until it actually fell into David Cronenberg's hand. I'm trying to remember who was supposed to direct that before him.
Well, who was what? I haven't seen all of the original. I just know the iconic scenes.
The Fly?
Yeah, but you said it takes place in Montreal or something?
That's right. You've seen more of The Fly than I have. All right, so like I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
When you're going to ask me questions, I'm like, yes, it takes place in Montreal and it has more France-sounding French accents as opposed to Montreal-sounding French accents.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Vincent Price is in it, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So there's one. Is Vincent Price? Now I'm like really fucking double.
No, it was Vincent Price. Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, it's good as a 1950s schlock. So like all these movies are actually pretty interesting and fun 50s movies if that's what your thing is and stuff. I don't really gravitate towards 1950 movies. They're really fun posters, if anything. Like you look at all three of them.
Well, you know that Jeff Goldblum one pretty well. So when did you first see The Fly? Because I saw it as a kid and it mortified me.
Yeah, I saw it. Remember always wanting to see it, and I thought it was just going to be a straightforward, like, basically Spider-Man, but for The Fly. But like I'm certain that it was going to be a horror movie. I was expecting it to be closer to Darkman, to which actually it is closer to Darkman, but it's just more visceral and upsetting. When did I see it? I think I was in my early 20s and all that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out. I saw it early. I saw it when I was like 10 or 11.
I remember actually just being caught up with the story. A good movie should like actually have a story where you're willing to like want to follow it, before any of the like shit that goes down, like the horror and all that stuff. So I remember being like actually interested in the Jeff Goldblum. Also because Jeff Goldblum's a really good actor. And he's just funny altogether. And like it seems like it's a slow, gradual descend into his mutation, but at the same time it seems like it's unbearably fast, if that makes any sense. Like it just like you can't stop it. Like it has a constant momentum. And I don't know, people always said it was like it came out like during the same time as like the AIDS epidemic, so it's an allegory for that. But I remember hearing David Cronenberg talking like it's more about like aging or cancer. Like, so I just think it's more of an allegory for disease in general, so you could like apply it to anything. It is a really upsetting thing. Like imagine seeing a person you love slowly die, and like I think they capture that in 80 fucking minutes, like, and it's just like a small cast of 3 people.
80 minutes, wow.
I think 80 minutes. Okay, just under 90 minutes.
Yeah,
that's still like
some I've seen movies like 2.5 hours long that don't convey as much
like
story
slogging.
as that.
That's where I say like a lot of people fucking shit on horror movies, but like you know what, some of the best of them could capture like the true existential horror of like fucking death and what have you and stuff. And I think The Fly does that fucking really well in terms of like seeing somebody you love fall apart, like before your eyes and shit, and like death is so inevitable and all that shit, and it's done so well, while at the same time like really amazing special effects, like so there's always something to look at. Like the dialogue's taut. I don't think there's a slow moment. I remember hearing somewhere like, oh, there's a fucking slow and boring movie. I'm like, how? It doesn't even give itself time to be slow and boring and stuff. Like it's probably one of the most fast-paced movies in terms of like something going on.
Oh my god, dude! When he does the test on the
baboon.
On the baboon.
Yeah.
I wish I could have had a selfie of Melissa's face. Her jaw extended, her eyes popped out, and she just was screaming, and she was like about to puke. I forgot that happened.
I love David Cronenberg. It's just he has like such a great nonchalance to like the horror that he presents in his movies. All of his movies always have like some sort of like gross outness, but they're never done like a big da type of thing. Mm-hmm. Like the baboon like transferring from pod to pod scene, coming like basically like hamburger meat is like the closest to a dinner, but it's done like in such an
Well,
matter of
because it's
factory
still
way.
kind of alive
It's-
and twitching. Like
But
that
like
was
the music is not like, you know, it's not like a horrific moment. Like if anything, it's more of a moment of defeat and like sadness. Jeff Goldblum,
womp
obviously.
womp womp womp.
Yeah, yeah, basically, you know. But it, I don't know. It's a clinical like detachment in terms of the emotion to a lot of like the horror that you would see in a David Cronenberg movie. Like there's always like more of like a person examining flies eating each other or something, or like ants like ripping each other apart. You know, like you're kind of just like interested in watching the horror unfold. The Fly being like actually the most emotional of his movies, like, but like if you look at like any of that others of his stuff, like Naked Lunch or fucking Scanners and stuff, where like it's more of a matter of fact. Well, Scanners has the exploding head, so that's pretty visceral, but that comes out of fucking nowhere. So
Yeah.
the gore in any Cronenberg movie is like usually like gross out, but done in such a way where it's like, here it is. There's absolutely no turning back, and like I'm, you know, it's almost like it's like innocent in its presentation. I have a French accent all of a sudden.
Maybe you're in the original Fly movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, big difference. Big difference. So they took
The remake was in Toronto, so they moved.
Did it take place in Toronto, or did it
Take
just
place? Maybe it was just filmed in Toronto, but like they don't really tell you where it is. But it was filmed in Toronto. Cronenberg's a Canadian, so like all his movies take place in Toronto, or his first two were in Montreal, Nuns Island. So it's very interesting to see the Champlain Bridge in all its glory in the 70s.
Well, Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis had like a real life, you know, love, a real life relationship.
They were a couple, yeah.
So it must have been.
And it worked because Jeff Goldblum's like 6'5" and Gina Davis is like 6'2". So
Yeah,
like,
she's a tall lady.
It doesn't look awkward.
Yeah.
I'm probably exaggerating when I say she's 6'2", but
No, but she is very tall.
yeah,
she is.
So.
So we're gonna move on to the Blob. I've only seen the Blobs last year because some dickhead, not you, once upon a time said, "Oh yeah, that movie sucks," and I was at an age where I'm like, they're probably right, and I put it on and I was amazed how much I liked it immediately because I was just like, this is practical effects. This is the 80s. This is just, it is a movie of its time. But at the same time, man, they go there sometimes. Like a scene that really stands out to me is that there's this kid and you think the kid's going to get away and you think they're not going to kill a kid.
Yeah,
They do, and they kill him pretty hard. Just it's amazing, like when they go in the Blob, they just disintegrate entirely. Like it's
that's a fascinating. Like,
pretty interesting. But it's
I like that movie a lot.
yeah, and it's a remake, of course. And I've seen most of the original. And the original, it's funny, is that the actors in it were so fucking old looking, but they're supposed to be playing teenagers, but
They're like 60 years old.
They look like they're 40 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the 50s, right?
And
everybody smoked cigarettes, so everybody looked older than they needed to be.
Yeah, and the original Blob starred Johnny Drama from Entourage.
He jumps over the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those fun. I like it, like sort of like invasion movies, or like I don't know, like trying to run away from the monster movie, and like that's basically what it is.
I was just looking up the director of the Blob because I know it's a director of note.
Chuck Russell.
Chuck Russell, yes.
He directed also Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, right?
There you go. Thank you. I was.
Yeah, he makes fun horror movies, so.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. So Chuck Russell is one of those great directors that had all these hits, but at the same time, we don't hold his name up to the sky like we do with Cronenberg and John Carpenter, you know? But at the same time, he made one of the biggest comic book movies in the world before comic book movies were ever a thing. I mean, he made The Mask in the early 90s when Jim Carrey was not a star yet. You know, he became a star pretty hardcore during production. Yeah. Like
that's a career boom that just came out in like left field.
I have the original comic book and it's
way darker, right?
Dude. Homie murders people.
If there's anything they have to remake, maybe they should do like a comic book close, more like a faithful adaptation of the comic book.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do an R-rated mask.
No, you're right, because kids watch Deadpool, and even though Deadpool is fucking violent. So anyway, so Chuck Russell, you brought up, he directed my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie besides the original, The Dream Warriors. And it's interesting that I don't say Chuck Russell's name with more familiarity based on the fact that I like most of his shit. You know what I mean? So Chuck Russell directs this movie and has a real sense of adventure, a sense that he understands how to use special effects. He knows how to portray teen angst. And I gotta say the Blob was super cool. It's kind of about the government kind of coming in, not telling you what's going on.
Classic 50s and
classic 50s / 2020. I guess we should bring up Invaders from Mars too. I saw that pretty recently, and just gotta say, that's another director that's done so many things. Tobe Hooper. And this particular movie, I saw most of the original. I saw all of the remake. And the interesting thing about this remake is that this remake in the 80s still wanted to seem like it was a period piece in the 1950s.
From the 50s,
it wanted
right?
to make you feel like the 1950s. Like there wasn't going to be any neon lights that the aliens didn't provide. There wasn't going to be any visors or boom boxes or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So
Tobe Hooper has like a darker look to his like a dark. He just has like a really visceral darkness to anything he does. Even though like not all his movies are very like signature-esque of him. Like they all kind of look different. Like compare that to Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Poltergeist to Invaders from Mars. I think Invaders from Mars kind of like is a little closer to Poltergeist, but then there's also fucking what's that vampire in space movie?
Lifeline?
Thank you. Life Force.
Life Force. I saw Life Force at your house.
Yeah.
Notable mentions. Any other remakes from that era that we should mention, or any other remakes in general that you thought were pretty fucking rad, actually? And
I almost want to make a whole episode on that. Like our favorite. I almost wanted like, hey, why don't we come back one day and just like name down the best remakes and stuff? Because yes, we think of the 1980s as like the movies and stuff, but there are also like. Did you know they were remakes type of movies? I know there are people that know that Scarface is a remake, but
I keep forgetting, to be honest.
I don't know. If you ever want to reconvene, we'll talk about like the best of fucking remakes and shit.
Has there ever been a director that literally made his own remake?
Oh, plenty. Hitchcock remade The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Oh, wow, okay.
He was like, I'll fucking redo it again. And there was another movie called, like, I think Murder. Like, he also, I think, remade a few of his own silent films. So, yeah, Hitchcock. I know there's somebody else in there that literally remade his own movie. It was the guy that did Funny Games. He, like, did He remade the original Funny Games into the English version. I forget his name right now.
Yeah.
I wrote it down somewhere, but I'm like, well, too bad. Too bad for me.
All right, man. So, well, that's been a real fun conversation. Everybody watching in digital world out there, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. What do you think is the best of the movies of the 80s? Is it The Fly, The Thing, The Blob, or Invaders from Mars? Or if you want to go a little more old school, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. All right, thanks for tuning in. See you later. Any last words, Marco?
No.